Hello, I'm Ruth from the Garrett Public Library, and I am here to welcome you to another session of our Railroader reading. Today I'm going to read some stories from the October 2021 issue of Reader's Digest, and you'll see some pets on the front, Pet Pals. And this segment of the session is going to be about pet besties. Here's the cover story here. And Dakota and Indiana are our two pets. And if you'll notice, this one right here, this dog, has 3 legs. And the story is going to let you know what happened to that dog. These are rescue animals. Dakota and Indiana. For 4 months, puppy Indiana miraculously survived in the woods with a shattered shoulder. She'd been mistaken for a wolf and shot while running wild with her mother Dakota. An animal control officer said they were the most intensely bonded pair he'd ever seen and refused to leave each other's side, even while trying to evade capture. As a result of a gunshot wound, Indiana lost not only her leg, but also her mother, as the two were sent to different adoption groups. While Indiana was learning to walk on 3 legs down south, Dakota was 1,000 miles north in New England. The first family to adopt her returned her 2 days later. They said she couldn't bond with humans, kept them up all night, and wasn't suitable to live in a home. Dakota found her forever home with me on Long Island. I have experience with Nordic breeds, and Dakota, a husky Malamute mix, just needed attention and someone who understood how to approach her. I always let her come up to me. I gave her the time and space to explore and feel comfortable. She soon let me put a leash on her and would jump onto my bed and lie on the sofa with me. When I first read Dakota's Pet Finder bio, it mentioned that the puppy she'd been running with was shot, and I assumed killed. I'm a broadcast news journalist, so I did some sleuthing and came across a story from a South Carolina TV news outlet about a puppy that recently had her front leg amputated because of an old gunshot wound. There was no mistaking it. She was a spitting image of Dakota. Her puppy wasn't killed by the gunshot, just badly injured. I vowed to bring the 3-legged puppy home. As I learned throughout my journey to reunite mother and pup, they both needed each other. Back home, Dakota would let out these downright mournful howls on the deck, as if she was calling for her puppy to come back. And potential adopters for Indiana were required to have a 6-foot fence because she kept jumping one at her rescue in South Carolina. When I finally adopted Indiana, the reunion was magical. Dakota was ecstatic. She couldn't stop licking her puppy's face. The love between them is as heartwarming as their story is heartbreaking. Dakota has since stopped her mournful hauls. Indiana never tried to jump my fence. They play and run around nonstop. The puppy cameras in my house turn on in the middle of the night because the 2 dogs are playing. They sleep entwined with each one's nose resting on the other. If one rolls over for a belly rub, the other rolls too. They romp around on the beach and love to say hi to other dogs. When Indiana is tired, Dakota lets her pup rest her one front leg on her back. Every day I play the same good morning song, and they come running in and dance with me, jumping on their hind legs and giving me their front paws or paw. These once feral dogs now jump onto my bed, lie on the sofa with me, curl up in my lap, and lick me constantly. Despite their having lived in the wild, the dogs have no aggression whatsoever. I am constantly amazed by how sweet and gentle they are. And this story was by Nani Gerber, the Hamptons, New York. Now I have a life-saving story. It's about a lab, and it's called Blue, the Big Yellow Fella. And here's a picture of Blue and his owner. My dog Blue came into my life because I have post-traumatic stress disorder. For me, the condition is a result of 3 significant conflicts as a Marine and 20 years of humanitarian work in Somalia, Rwanda, Darfur, Haiti, Iraq, and Afghanistan. A soul-crushing illness, PSTD, drags victims into nightmarish voids of shame, fear, and chaos. Initially, the clash between my ego and reality made me hesitant to want a trained companion. Walking around with a large animal wearing a vest announcing "service dog" felt like public admission of an illness I wanted to hide. But the Southeastern Guide Dog's motto hit home: serving those who cannot see and those who have seen too much. Managing PTSD involves learning to accept the past. Those who have seen too much fit. When asked during the interview process what kind of dog I preferred, I answered, imagine standing in the exercise area for dogs. In the distance, one dog is romping with his friends. You've been concerned about placing him. He's huge. He'll fill up a house, apartment, or truck. That's my dog. Then, on my first evening at the Southeastern Guide Dogs campus, our trainer told me, since the beginning of this school year in 1984, your dog is the largest lab ever born in this facility. You'll meet him tomorrow. The next day, a 90-pound yellow Labrador retriever with ears the size of dinner plates closed the 25 feet separating us in a flash. I dropped to the floor, and my face was met by a wet tongue moving in sync with an ever-wagging tail. My worries vanished. I fell in love with the big yellow fella. Blue was trained for 23 months prior and knew his job. Over the next 12 days, the training focused on understanding his abilities and temperament and bonding. We were together 24/7. When I'd move, he moved. If he couldn't follow, he strove to maintain line of sight. If a closed door separated us, he lay outside until I appeared. On the 5th night of training, I had a nightmare. They were becoming more frequent and severe. While still in the nightmare, I felt a sudden pressure across my chest. I shot up in bed, gasping for air and trying to orient myself. Blue had placed his legs across my torso to gently restrain me and attempted to lick me awake. He laid his head on my chest, and I began to match his breathing. I could feel his warmth and kindness replacing the dark memories that invaded my sleep. The cues Blue learned over his 2 years of training are impressive. He inconspicuously blocks people from entering my personal space. He guides me through crowds and watches my back if I stop for conversation. All are examples of learned skills. But he has natural abilities that cannot be taught. Blue intercedes before I realize I am falling into depression, anxiety, or anger. His manner is never aggressive or intrusive. He usually comes to me wagging his tail. If he thinks I'm pushing too hard at the gym, he moves as close as he can to the weights or machine and licks my leg. During a stressful phone call or conversation, he'll lay his head on my lap. On the now rare occasion when I express anger, he stares at me with a face that says, "I don't know what to do, but I love you," which immediately stops the emotion from escalating. My life is not perfect. I still have bad times, but it's different. The journey is now a quiet acceptance of the illness and its source, without the anger, fear, or resentment. And that's because my path is now guided by something intangible, seen only when I look into Blue's eyes. And this was written by Robert McPherson of Charlotte, North Carolina. I have one more short story. It's called Besties Most Likely to Go Viral. It's about Minnie the Moocher and Mr. Fluffy. And here's a small picture of the two of them. If you can see them, they're cats. It's kind of hard to see the picture. Minnie the Moocher was a stray cat who lived on our property but never let me touch her once in 11 years. Still, she became my constant companion. Whenever I went outside, she'd meow hello and follow me around the property. One day, a fluffy cat showed up, staring at me and ignoring Minnie. Minnie, however, walked right up to headbutt him. He swatted at her, and she tried to rub on him again. This went on for days until he finally accepted her affection. We adopted Mr. Fluffy, who disliked all cats except Minnie. They'd become quite the twosome. He'd come in the house at night, and every morning Minnie was on the porch waiting for him. One morning, Minnie just wasn't there. Mr. Fluffy and I scoured the property for days, but no Minnie. It always hurts to lose an animal you love. Feral as she was, Minnie taught me that friendship and love can be shared just by being present and accepting. No touching or words needed. Just be there. That was written by Karen Ramon of Lavernia, Texas. I hope you enjoyed our stories today, and I hope you will join us again next week. Thank you for coming.